Well, Will, thanks for being our next staff profile volunteer. Not going to lie, it's taken you a while, but we got there in the end, didn't we?
We did indeed. Yeah, it's good to be a part of it, and add what I can to the staff profiles.
Let's take you right back to the start. Where did you get your love of football from?
I think it all starts back when I was about 5 years old, when my granddad first took me to a Bolton Wanderers game. He used to take me most weeks when he was allowed to, and then just eventually ended up being a season ticket holder for about 10, 15 years, something like that, and it all just stemmed from there.
So for you, obviously that family connection, the Bolton connection is pretty central to you, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's always come from family, especially my granddad, my mum's side. My dad is a Blue, he's a Man City fan. Tried to convert me that way, and should have perhaps taken that path, but Bolton's very close to my heart, as is obviously my family. So yeah, that's where it's all came from.
What was it about sports media that interested you most? Because I know that you studied that at university level, but how come you took that career path rather than another one, if you like?
Yeah, I think it all started when I was playing football at school level. I think one week I just had a desire to write a match report or do a bit of reporting just generally on the game, if you like, and it sort of just stemmed from there. Realised that was a bit of a passion of mine. Obviously always followed the media side of it, watching Match of the Day growing up and so on, and reading about it in the newspapers occasionally, and it all just seemed to come from there really. And then, like I said, then went into studying at uni, doing sports media, and then eventually coming into working professionally in it as well.
So what was it in terms of the course which you learned? Obviously, you learned quite a bit, but what you can actually take and put into practice in like an employment environment? Yeah,
so I specialised in the sports media course, in sort of the written side of it and the journalism side. So that was my passion from the off, really. Doing the match reports and social media content, stuff like that. That's my kind of bread and butter, if you like, and it's what I try to take forward now, and it's what I like to do now.
In terms of when you left university, you had a wonderful opportunity, didn't you? I think I'm right in saying you were a volunteer first, but that then led into a full-time working for Soccer Aid. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's true, yeah. So right from the very off, when I came out of uni, I had the opportunity to do some work experience for Soccer Aid, which was a great experience. Having done that for a couple of campaigns, I think the first one was 2019 when it was at Chelsea, and then did the 2021 at Man City, and then in 2022 was offered a full-time role, which was as kind of operations, administration, etc. Ended up there for 3 years, really enjoyed it, loved it, ended up as junior project manager, I think was my eventual title, which I was very proud of. Like I said, loved my 3 years there, and obviously just recently decided to jump ship.
In terms of that though, I mean, to what extent did your time at Soccer Aid give you a very different perspective, a very different experience, if you like, to those at university where you were learning your trade in a way, weren't you?
Yeah, it's a completely different environment, obviously, to being just studying that particular kind of industry to then actually being part of it full time. It's extremely different, and Soccer Aid itself is obviously a very unique thing to begin with. So that's a completely unique insight into kind of sport and football, etc. The whole kind of environment to do with that was one which I'd never experienced before, and I think very few probably would as well. So I felt very fortunate to be a part of that. It was just a great experience to have and have under my belt and on my CV.
Whilst you were at Soccer Aid, of course, you then became a volunteer here at Macclesfield FC. Tell us a little bit about how that came about.
So originally I was actually working as a press officer at Longridge Town. That was voluntary as well at the time. That's sort of where I'd started the kind of the love for doing that kind of as a job, if you like, and then was then approached, I think it was by Jimmy Holmes at the time, who was head of recruitment, and he just said, would you fancy coming in and helping us out at Mac with Robbie Holmes at the time? Just absolutely was, taken aback by the opportunity really, and just thought, that's 100% something I'd love to do. And I think for the best part of 18 months, I think it was, ended up helping yourself, Bob, out as a volunteer, and Ben, who's just behind the camera now, in part of the media team. And unfortunately, at one point, it just wasn't quite going the way that it was, panning out to how I'd hoped it would pan out. It's all seemed to have fallen into place now nicely.
But when you look back at that time as a volunteer, we'll come to kind of like the full-time role in a minute, but when you look back at that time when you were a volunteer, how would you assess that?
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was a unique kind of experience to have, and straight away, I remember the first night that I came down. It was a Cheshire Cup game against Stockport County, under the lights, and immediately I think it was my second time at the ground actually, having come to watch Mac Town against Bolton back in the day. But yeah, first time was Mac FC. Came down just instantly. Thought, wow, what a setup! This is 100% what I can see myself doing, where I can see myself working, and knew that it was destined to be from that point onwards, really.
Like you've just alluded to, after then you had a little bit of a break due to other circumstances. Obviously, after you went on the lads' holiday, but that's another story.
Completely related.
But I think you've kind of touched on this. So you always harbour ambitions to come back, like?
Yeah, 100%. I knew from that point onwards, really, that I wanted to work, particularly in a media department at a football club, especially this one here. It's something that I think we'd obviously kept in touch with throughout those years, and always kind of hoped that one day it would work out, and eventually it has, not long ago.
So in terms of that full-time role, I think you've been back in it, just over a month now, haven't you?
That's right.
How did that come about?
Yeah, so it was off the back of the last Soccer Aid. I think myself and you spoke sort of at length about it, and just whether there was potentially an opportunity there, which gradually arose at that point, and it seemed like a bit of a natural point after the last Soccer Aid of being there for 3 years, and it seemed to just be a great time to transition into the role, and it was an opportunity which I was sort of always waiting for it to happen. And when it came, I just absolutely jumped at it with both hands. And yeah, it's just never looked back since.
You say that. Obviously, you spent, 3 years at Soccer, What a wonderful experience. So, whereas with yourself always wanting to come back in as a full-time role, at the same time, I guess it must have been a bit heart-wrenching to leave something you invested so much in with Soccer Aid.
Yeah, it was, because it was all I'd ever known for 3 years, and it felt very strange at that point, realising that I'd have to leave it all behind. The friendships, connections, and my job effectively that I'd made my own at that point was a little bit of a shock to then realise that it was no longer mine. And it did take a lot of brain power and thought to go into it to decide whether it's actually what I wanted to do. Decided it would be for the best, and I'm glad that I did, because I certainly feel like I made the right decision.
So in terms of your typical working day, you're going to say there isn't one, but if there was, what would you say a typical day is for you?
Yeah, so at the moment it's all the social media content, the website, supporting Ben with the YouTube and video content, and yourself, Bob, obviously with the archive stuff and commercial end of it as well. Bits of operational support with Amanda as well. But yeah, the bread and butter of it is the social media and the website content, which I love producing and creating and putting out there to make it as best as it can be for our fans and for the club.
So in terms of working here, what do you like most about working for Macclesfield FC, other than, of course, bagging free holidays?
It's a great environment to be a part of, obviously working with both yourself, Bob, and Ben, Amanda, all the backroom staff. It's honestly a privilege to be a part of. To be part of, although we're not physically sat in one, to be part of a dressing room is almost what it feels like. It's something that I knew from being a volunteer is what I wanted to do, really. And it's just the environment that attracts me to it, and it just feels like such a professional setup and outlet, which I think has so much more potential to give. I'm in it for the long run now, and hopefully it's just going to continue to be a success as we hopefully climb back up the leagues.
Difficult one, but to be fair, we ask everyone, what would you say your biggest challenge is?
Biggest challenge working with you, Bob. No.
Everyone says that, don't they? Yeah.
No, it's not really original, is it? But there's challenges every day. Look, and there's time pressures and constraints, and there's a lot of things to be done ultimately at the end of the day to make sure that everything goes out that needs to go out, but it's also to the best of its possible ability and potential, and just make sure that it's up to scratch really, and that it's as good as it can possibly be.
Tell us one thing people won't know about you.
You put me on the spot here, Bob. I'd say probably back in my school days, I was quite a keen swimmer, to the point where I was actually pretty much at national level. I had a couple of competitions at the Olympic Park in London. Had the opportunity to swim there, which was pretty cool. I still swim to this day when I get a chance to go to the gym in the evenings. It's a little hidden pastime of mine that I do to relax in the evening. So yeah,
decent. And just finally, mate, what do you hope to achieve here at Macclesfield FC over the coming weeks and months?
Yeah, look, as I alluded to before about the content and just making it as best as it can be, I think that ultimately is the nail on the head. Just trying to elevate our content and just make it as good as it can possibly be. I want it to be at a league level, and if not, above that at a European level. Just want it to ultimately be the most professional kind of outlet that we can be, and obviously it helps putting it onto my CV as well personally. And I just want to be able to put my name to something which is a really good opportunity.